Now, I know that Game Week 37 has literally only just started, but you know me, and you know that doesn't stop me making some FPL content to keep you guys ticking over. And in this video, for the final time this season, we're going to talk through players to buy and avoid ahead of Game Week 38. So given we've only got one game week left of this season to go, I didn't really know quite how to frame this video. I'm not going to just make content for the sake of it. I want to try and make videos this week that actually add value, even though we've only got 1 week left, because I think most people, well, we're all going to have one transfer that we probably want to use. Some people maybe more, or maybe a chip left, for example. Quite a few people, interestingly, on my deadline stream still had both their triple captain and bench boost left to use. So that was quite interesting. I thought I'd start very, very basic and just look through the fixtures we've got, right? And I think things to look out for in terms of players to pick and teams to target are teams that are either playing teams that have been relegated already, so the bottom three. We know in the Premier League there's a big gulf between the bottom three and the rest of the league. And also, I'd say teams that have something left to play for. So I'm looking down this list. Bournemouth straight away, still kind of in the fight for Europe, I believe. Have got Leicester at home. Man City away at Fulham. Fulham, I have a feeling they're going to be on the beach for Game Week 38. It certainly looks like Marco Silva might be off as well. Man City obviously fighting till the end for Champions League football and to maybe finish second. West Ham and Ipswich. Obviously, West Ham have got a good fixture there, but, you know, not necessarily with things to play for. Aston Villa against Man United. Definitely Villa have got something to play for, and we'll see what kind of mood Man United are in after the Europa League final. Newcastle and Everton. Newcastle definitely with something to play for. Nottingham Forest against Chelsea. Both teams there with something to play for. That might sort of change the dynamic of that game. I wonder if Chelsea v Forest will be quite a cagey one. Arsenal away at Southampton. Arsenal, I think, will be looking to solidify second place in the league, so I think they'll be going hard in that game. And then Spurs, Brighton. I mean, there's probably not too much riding on the league for either of those teams, really. And then Wolves and Brentford, both teams that I would expect to score against one another. So a quick run through of the fixtures, and from how I've described them, you might be able to pick out some teams that I think look quite good. Next up then, I've got some projected goals data, courtesy of Rob T FPL. I've done some hacking and slashing of his usual graphics, so you won't see his Twitter on the graphics, but it's at Rob T FPL on X. I know it's the end of the season, but start your 25-26 season off well by following Rob, because he genuinely puts out some of the best useful data for fantasy football you can possibly get. In terms of projected goals then, well, the teams that are the best are the ones that are shaded in. So we've got Man City against Fulham, Liverpool against Crystal Palace, although Liverpool's on the beach percentage, you know, leaves a lot to be desired, I would say. Arsenal against Southampton, Villa against Man United, Bournemouth against Leicester, Chelsea against Forest, although like I said, I do feel like that game will be quite cagey. In fact, I probably reckon Brentford score more goals against Wolves than Chelsea actually do against Forest, just my mind. So you might want to, in my mind, I'd probably switch those two numbers around. Newcastle against Everton look pretty good. Brighton against Tottenham. Tottenham in inverse against Brighton. Obviously, that depends how the Europa League goes for them. Wolves against Brentford and West Ham against Ipswich. So the projected goals, they kind of follow a similar track to teams that I tried to subtly highlight on the previous slide, where, you know, it's teams with something left to play for, good attacks against teams that are pretty poor. And that's kind of the factor in terms of teams to target from an attacking perspective. And then we've also got clean sheet odds. So Man City only 20%, only at the moment 27% against Fulham away. But I would personally increase those odds, I think. I think they've stand a bit of a better chance. And I also think Fulham just have a bit more of an on-the-beach factor about them now. Arsenal 44% against Southampton. Liverpool 39% against Palace. I'd say the inverse to Liverpool than with Man City. Liverpool are on the beach rather than Fulham being on the beach, so I think I'd probably rank that a little bit lower. I do think Crystal Palace could do quite well in that game. Chelsea 28% against Forest. I actually would say, just in the mind that it's a cagey game, I'd rank them fairly similarly for clean sheet odds, I've got to say. And I also think, regardless of whether he plays in 37 or not, I do think Murillo could well be back for 38. It does sound like he's back in training for Forest. Newcastle 42% against Everton. Bournemouth 47% against Leicester. And that's kind of really the highlights. For me, what this is saying is, yes, there are some defenses that you could possibly get a clean sheet from. But for me, if you've got very limited transfers left, we've got one game week left to go this season, how boring would that be, using one of those transfers on the defender? Even for me, who's one of, I think, the safest, cagiest FPL managers out there, I wouldn't use a transfer on a defender. I would definitely look to target an attacker from one of these teams that are sort of top in the list for projected goals. And we'll go through some targets now. Actually, before we do, just a quick look at some expected points data. I think it's quite useful to look at this. Some people like it, some people loathe it. Feel free to skip the next couple of minutes if you don't want to see expected points data. But for me, it's quite useful. On the left, we've got Fantasy Football Hub. And on the right, we've got FPL Review, two of my favourite sources for expected points data. The top 5, well, we'll just go through the top for a Fantasy Football Hub. So Saka, Salah, Isak, Haaland, Martinelli, Evanilson, Semenyo, and Raul Jimenez. Interestingly, Semenyo ranks in terms of Fantasy Football Hub expected points. Semenyo ranks ahead of Kluivert, which I think is quite interesting. Not necessarily sure that aligns with my view. FPL Review, well, it's currently got Salah as number 1, Saka close second, Evanilson 3rd, Kluivert 4th, Haaland 5th, Isak and Mbeumo, Odegaard, Semenyo, Bowen and Martinelli. So it kind of does stack up with what I was saying there. Teams with something left to play for, good attacks against weaker defences. Who would my captain be for Game Week 38? If money was no object and I could get him in quite easily, I think it would be Saka. And to be honest, might sound a bit controversial, I think I'm going to bring in Saka for Mbeumo. That's the transfer I can make in my team with the money I've got available. And I have a feeling that might be quite a popular move. Salah against one of the worst teams in Premier League history, or Saka, sorry, against one of the worst teams in Premier League history. I don't think you can go too far wrong with that. In fact, based on the expected points data you've seen there, the fixtures we've spoken about, clean sheet odds, projected goals, etc., let me know in the comments who your captain is going to be. Now, one player I did want to talk about, he's not played yet in Game Week 37, admittedly, but I think you can get rid of Salah. I really do. I got rid of him last week. I feel like I maybe got away with one a little bit in that Arsenal game, but just with Liverpool being basically fully on the beach, even if Salah is going for that assist record, I just think the rest of his team just don't look very motivated at the moment. I mean, we'll see. They've been away in Dubai on a little bit of a break, and there's like a question as to whether that break in Dubai was like a party break or a bit of a recovery break, and they can absolutely attack these last couple of games of the season off a few days off. I guess we'll see on that one. But yeah, obviously he's broken the FPL points record this season. I can't talk highly enough of how Salah has performed this season, but right now, 13.6 million, you're probably not going to captain him in Game Week 38. I think that if you haven't already, if there was ever a time to potentially look to get rid of Salah, it's Game Week 38, right, against Crystal Palace. I mean, yeah, Palace probably looking for revenge for the FA Cup final, and just Liverpool going to be on the beach at that point. Yeah, I think there's better captains out there than Salah, and I wouldn't be spending that much money on him if I wasn't going to captain him, I don't think. I think the ideal replacement for Salah is Saka. Like I said, I think Saka, on paper, is probably the best captain going into Game Week 38. I think most people have a way to get him in their team. I said I was selling Mbeumo for Saka, but that's because I've already sold Salah. I think you could do a lot worse than just moving Salah onto Saka to captain. The quality of the fixture, quality of the player, I think it kind of justifies it. The one thing that would slightly put me off about Saka, and it's a fact that well, it's not exactly a groundbreaking fact, but he's only scored 6 Premier League goals this season from 23 games, which is not amazing. It's not amazing. 6.62 XG and 7 XA. So, the underlying numbers are not amazing for 23 appearances for Saka, but I'll let him off. Southampton, I think, is a great fixture. Obviously, although it depends on how Southampton set up, they did, of course, keep Man City quiet in a 0-0 draw in Game Week 36. Trying to remember what the game weeks are there. So, yeah, that could be an interesting factor. But I think, on paper, he's probably the best captain. And if you've got Salah, I think it makes sense to go for him. Next player I wanted to talk about, one that's probably on a lot of people's radars already, but it's Jarrod Bowen. It's just a question of, given that it is the final game of the season, how will West Ham line up? Will Graham Potter give the chance for some kids? Because, well, I think their league position is kind of wrapped up, really. There's no real motivation to absolutely go for that game. But, it's Jarrod Bowen. The guy is just, one thing I want to say about Jarrod Bowen as well, the guy is just an absolutely elite finisher. He is one player, and it's not really happened for Son this season, but alongside Heung-min Son, right, every single season he's been in the Premier League, I'm pretty sure, Jarrod Bowen has outscored his XG because he is just such a clinical finisher, and that's exactly what he's proven this season. Ipswich away, I think, is a good fixture. The only thing I think you have to factor in is where are West Ham's aspirations for the rest of the season, right? I think he probably plays and gets 90 minutes, but what does the rest of that West Ham team look like? Do they do some big rotation, etc., etc.? That's just one thing I'd bear in mind. And finally, I do like Kluivert from Bournemouth as well, but it does feel like in recent game weeks that Kluivert's form has just dropped off a little bit, whereas Evanilson, he feels like the form Bournemouth player at the moment. I think Leicester at home, they may still be fighting for a European position at that point of time. He's actually underperformed his XG as well. You can see there, 11.76 XG and only 10 goals compared to it. So yeah, it's 12 XG basically compared to 10 goals. I think the guy's a brilliant little centre forward, to be honest with you. I really rate him. I think he's a good player. And Leicester at home, Bournemouth probably still having something to fight for at that stage of the season. So they'll be going for the game. And actually, right now, based on the fact that Southampton have just kept a clean sheet against Man City, actually place Leicester behind Southampton in terms of teams to target, particularly considering that Bournemouth are at home for this fixture, right? I think that's a big factor. So yeah, excuse me, I really like Evanilson as an option. I think he could be a tasty differential. He's nice and cheap, really good fixture. If you're really looking to chase, I think you could do a lot worse than captaining him, to be honest. All right, well, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that and found it useful. Yeah, that was the last one of these buy and avoid videos I've made. I think I've not missed a Saturday or Friday upload, depending on the kickoffs, all season. So 38 weeks have all been hit. So I'm pretty happy with that. And also, I'm very grateful for everyone's support on these videos. This is by far and away the most popular video series I do on this channel. The feedback's great. The fact that the catchphrase in the intro has become a little bit, well, I wouldn't say iconic. That sounds like I'm getting a bit cocky. You know what I mean? Yeah, I really enjoy it. So I just appreciate all the support you've given on these videos. Thank you very much. Please leave a like rating if you did enjoy. I think I asked you to let me know in the comments earlier who you were going to captain for Game Week 38. So if you didn't catch that bit, please let me know in the comments who you're going to captain in Game Week 38. And if you haven't already, we're coming towards the end of the season now, so you're not going to get a whole lot more content out of me before the new season. I'll probably be one of the first people to make a video for the new season, though. You know what I'm like. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, want to see more from me, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the Golden Goal channel, which should be just there on your screen. I think we're probably a little bit far away, but if there was any way we could hit 14,000 subscribers by the end of the season, I would be over the moon with that. So yeah, we'll see how we get on with that one. All right, I think that is everything now. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.